All right, this is exactly why I think you need to be investing right now, especially if you're a young person. My name's Josh. I've been investing for about 5 years, and if anyone has seen my channel before, this video is going to be very conversational. I just want to talk to you and explain why I think it's so important that you're investing right now. And for anyone who wants proof and see, like, what is this guy talking about? This is what my stock portfolio looks like from the past 5 years. If I get, there it is. All right, so now you can see just about $24,000 over the past 5 years. I just turned 21. I started investing when I was just about 15 or 16 years old. So I've learned a lot of things, and there are a lot of reasons that I think other young people should really be investing right now. So I definitely have some firsthand experience when it comes to investing. I think a lot of people perceive investing to be something that they do later on, when they have a 9-to-5 job, or some people perceive it to be absolutely out of their reach entirely, thinking investing is only for very few people who are like CEOs of companies or are doing other crazy stuff, when that's really not at all true. Investing is something absolutely everybody can do. Even if you only have like $5 in your wallet right now, investing is super attainable to the average person. And for young people, I really want to emphasize that I think the first reason why you really should be investing, and kind of why I got into investing, is the concept of compound growth over time. I'm not going to get technical. Essentially, all I'm saying is that when you put in money in your stock portfolio and you keep adding to it every couple weeks, every couple days, however often you decide that you want to invest, you keep adding to this portfolio, and over time the money in there, kind of like how in a savings account you have an interest yield that you're paid out every so often on the money that's already in there. Imagine that, but it happens on like steroids for a stock portfolio, where your money is gaining on average like 8% a year, and you're gonna get this thing called dividends, which for anyone who doesn't know, it means when you own a share of a company, they're gonna pay you out a couple dollars or a couple cents, a certain fraction of whatever you have in their company, back to you every couple months, which is insane because your bank account is probably doing maybe 1.5%. If that's like a high yield savings account, that's what they're going to pay you every single year back. So if you invest $100, or if you save $100 more so, they're going to give you $1.50 every year. That's essentially what that 1.5% means. But with a stock portfolio, if you invest $100 into a stock and they have 8% appreciation on average, and right, I'm just pulling that number from what the average stock market return is over the course of the past, I think it's 100 years. On average, you're going to get about 8% appreciation. So if you invest $100 every single year, that $100 is going to be worth 8% more. So that's $8 in the first year. And then it compounds, right? This is where it starts to get crazy, is that now you have $108, right? Because you took that appreciation and that principal, and that's the starting amount, that $100. And on the next year, that $108 is then appreciated by 8%, which means the $8 that you got in year one, assuming you never touch that, actually becomes $8.64. So even on the small scale, you see what I'm talking about though, and then that gets added on and so on and so forth. And then when you factor in like the dividends, like I said earlier, the more time you have to build up those payments, the larger and larger sums you're gonna start to receive over time. And that's kind of why I think for young people, especially like the average young person, like you and me, it's just really important to start thinking about that compound interest. And it kind of becomes a snowball effect. So I'm not going to get crazy with the numbers here, but I did a little bit of math. And let's say you took $100 a month from the age that you turned 20 all the way until you're 60. So 40 years, $100 a month, not very much money over the course of 40 years. And obviously this is a very low amount that you would invest, but it's a great starting point, right? Like I think I started by only investing maybe 20 or 30 bucks every week or so. It's like I did what I could with my part-time jobs in high school. I mean, it built over time, but it's always going to be changing. And then as you kind of grow up and you start to get a job, like I'm not currently a part of the workforce right now. I'm a college student, but obviously I'd be investing more than $100 a month whenever it is time for me to go and get a 9-to-5. But let's assume we have that 8% return, $100 a month. That's over $400,000 by the age of 60. But then let's think maybe instead of 20 years old, you start at 30 years old and you still wanted to cash out at 60, and that's just kind of an arbitrary age that I'm choosing for retirement or like a cash out. You would have less than $200,000 starting 10 years later. So by starting 10 years earlier, you actually have almost double the money. And this is called the snowball effect, and which is what's really cool about when you start young. You can actually have more time to build up, and every single year you can get of that extra additional snowball effect, it's going to increase your wealth by an exponential amount. That's kind of how this compound growth works, is that the money just keeps building. And for the first maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you might not see these crazy big returns, but I mean, your money starts to work for you over time. And every single year that you're holding on to those stocks and you just keep staying consistent with it, you keep your head down, you kind of invest that money and forget about it, it's going to get just a little bit bigger. And eventually those small little sums that add up over time lead into you getting massive payouts by the end of it, enough to where you could potentially live off of the dividends that you're being paid out and living off of your portfolio. And this is actually a very common retirement strategy, but almost nobody does it because it takes so much time and people want to like buy. And I totally understand if you can't invest that much money. Luckily, I'm fortunate to where I have the opportunity to invest as much as I can, but it also didn't come from like free work. My school is completely paid for by scholarships, and like the hard work that I put in then and even now, applying for more in college gives me more of an opportunity because I see how important it is to invest in your future. Ultimately, time amplifies any amount of investment. And so the earlier you can get that first $2, that first $5 into a stock portfolio, the easier it's going to be for you to just keep chipping away and building up this eventually massive portfolio. A lot of people think that, I'll just wait until I have this from a job, and I don't want to invest right now. I don't need to. It doesn't make a difference. They think that it's free to wait. Actually, waiting costs you money. You are losing money by waiting to invest and waiting on all this stuff. There's just no sense in waiting when you know that the compound interest grows immediately. As soon as you own one full share of almost any company, the compound growth starts. And to prove this, I want to pull up a quick example. So I'm going to go into my Robinhood account right now, and I want to pull up my entire dividend history. So Robinhood, which is like the brokerage I use, you can get started on any, which I'll talk about here in a second. Okay, so it's in extremely small writing. As you can see, I have some sort of like statement pulled up. I don't want to show you too much of it because it has a lot of my personal information on it. But the point of what I want to show you is that my portfolio as of April of 2022, which is when I switched over my custodial account into my own name, was worth $9,300. And I got paid out a total dividend of $95.63 for the year. So portfolio less than $10,000, got paid out almost $100, about just a 1%, 1 point something, 0 point something percent dividend yield. But then when we go to just 2 years later, is currently the end of 2024 as I'm making this video, my portfolio as of this last statement, which was the end of October, was worth just under $23,000, and I got a total dividend payout of $250, $246 to be exact, which, as you can see, in the matter of 2 years, the dividend payout, and keep in mind, that's money in my hand. That is stuff that I could pull out literally the next day once the funds settle, and I could go spend that on anything. That is free money and for all intents and purposes, it was passive income. Now, I don't want to call it exactly passive income because I did have to invest a lot of money and a lot of time, but I did absolutely nothing after the point of investment. I didn't have to sign anything, have to do anything. It was automatically paid out, which is why it's so huge that you're getting in really early. But enough on like the whole time thing. I do also want to point on like the actual brokerage that I use. It's easier than it's ever been for anybody over the age of 18 can start an account right now for free, doing absolutely nothing. And most of these brokerages will actually even give you money to invest. Because keep in mind, these brokerages do have money to make off of you by you having your money in there. They'll have they have like gold memberships, or they might have transaction fees. Like I know on Robinhood right now, it's like a couple pennies for like options orders. The game is completely open to almost anybody with apps like Robinhood or maybe even Webull. There's a ton of them out there. You kind of use whatever you want. It does not matter. But there's so much freedom and choice for what brokerage you want to use, how you want to invest. And there are tons of resources out there. I mean, I'm going to have videos coming out about all the different brokerages eventually. Right now, I don't have anything like that. I personally use Robinhood. It's what I would vouch for. It's never been easier to learn about investing too. Whether it's like books or YouTube videos, whatever you want to learn about a stock, you can. There are so many great pieces of literature out there to read. And then even if you go on YouTube, there's actually educational content. And I think a lot of people in the younger generation, Generation Z, actually understand the value that can come from YouTube as an educational platform. That's what I try and do with making these videos, is just kind of, spreading the word out there about young investing and, entrepreneurship and other stuff I also talk about. But mainly what I want to talk about in this video is just the investing aspect of it, because it's something that I've been doing for so long that I feel like no one is really doing right now. But those of you who are know exactly what I'm talking about, and I would like anyone to, testify to the power that they've seen in their own portfolio. If you want to talk about it below for the other people watching this who maybe aren't as familiar with investing, because a lot of these concepts, they use all of these crazy terms that kind of isolate some of the people. I know when I was first starting out, I felt really isolated and I just didn't understand all the terms, and I felt like you had to be a super smart tech science person type of guy to understand how to do the math on portfolio returns. And while, yes, there is an aspect of it that can get that advanced. I am currently a finance major, so I do understand a lot about it. And I'm currently studying for my security industry essentials, then to go on for my CFP, sit and test for that in a couple of years. But as of right now, I have the same qualifications as any dude just on the street. It's none of this is groundbreaking stuff. And if you just actually have a passion to learn and you want to set yourself up for the future, it's the best way to do it. There is just no other opportunity like this out there that requires as few barriers to entry. There's no barrier to get in. Essentially, you just have to create an account and put in some money, connect a bank account. You can start with $5. Everybody has $5. Absolutely everybody, I'm pretty sure, has at least $5 somewhere that they can put into a portfolio. And with the addition of new tools like fractional shares, which means, let's say Apple is currently trading at $120 a share, right? You might not have $120 to put into Apple, but you might have $50 to put into Apple. And so what you do with that is you go onto a lot of these brokerages and they offer fractional shares where you can buy a portion of a share and you get the same returns, obviously, of the money that you invest. You're still going to get, if Apple goes up 20% that year, the $50 you invest in that fractional share is going to go up 20%. Now, I will say on fractional shares, you might not get the dividend payouts, but you can pretty quickly build up to get that full share, and then you'll be eligible for the next dividend. That is something that is pretty recent. You used to not be able to buy fractional shares at all, and that's something that has totally leveled the game, where these massive stocks that maybe are trading for massive on paper in terms of at least share price, they might not be huge stocks, but let's say that a couple stocks trade a couple $1,000s, right? Well, most people don't have a couple $1,000s to just invest into one stock, right? They want to buy portions of it, and that's why that's such a powerful tool. And everything is so user friendly now on these platforms, between just the flow of actually buying a stock. And to show you truly how easy it is to invest on these platforms now, here is the S&P 500. This is my largest holding. It tracks the 500 best performing U.S. stocks, essentially. So essentially the strongest companies in the United States right now. All I have to do is I literally click on this trade button right here. I can go to buy right there on the bottom. And right here, I can literally enter, let's say I'm right now, just for the purpose of this, I'm going to buy $10 and swipe up, and it's done. Did you see how fast that was? I literally just did it on camera right there. That should go to show how truly simple it is now to buy a stock. And I just really want to emphasize that the content out there, while there is a lot of good, there's also some bad. There's some stuff that you probably shouldn't listen to. I probably wouldn't take specific stock recommendations from people online, but just use your common sense. You can depict what is probably good information versus what is maybe just smoke and noise. So obviously be smart. You guys are smart people, but there's so much to learn online and through books that it's like it's just so easy to educate yourself, especially on investing, for as popular as it is among younger people now. The last thing I really want to talk about is how investing truly can set up your future for financial freedom among young people, right? So job stability, for anyone who's my age, it's not as much of a thing, you know. It's going into the job market and looking at a lot of these internships. You know, I have experience with that stuff, but loyalty among jobs is pretty dead. Benefits seem to be going away pretty fast for a lot of these employers, and honestly, you're not expected to do much, and they don't even believe that the loyalty that you're giving them at the time will be something that is taken into the future. They kind of are expecting you to leave at a certain point, and that means if you want to have like a wife and kids, and you want to do things and actually have some predictability and be able to weather like a major life event, it's kind of important to have your finances in order, and investing is a great way to do that, and honestly future-proof yourself and your family and your income, most importantly, against those big life events, those unknowns, right? And I know it's kind of forward thinking for young people, but you have to think now if you really want to set yourself up in the future. And when it comes to things like inflation, which has lately been going absolutely rampant, when you put your money in a savings account and it yields you maybe 1% interest a year, the average inflation rate over the past, I can't even remember how many years, has been just about 2%. So that means every year your money can buy less, you know, and so you might get a raise from your employer for maybe 1.5%, right? Well, inflation that year probably ate away at all of that and more. So every single year, your money is worth less and less, and you're doing the same, if not more, work for less money. And while you might on paper be getting a higher number, that money buys less. I'm not going to go too much into that, but ultimately it's a way to future-proof and give yourself a net where it's, if you're getting a larger return in the stock market than inflation, your money is actually going to be worth more every single year. And that's how it has been for me for the past 5 years, that this money is actually worth more, even though inflation has been so ridiculously high the past couple years. And when you start to build up a portfolio that can actually fund small things, or, you know, if you want to focus on the compound growth, you can take different risks. You know, if you need to make a career change later in life, if you have enough investments, you can actually take that risk without worrying too much. Or if, you know, college strain, you know, putting your kid through college is something that you want to do later on, investing now is the best way to where that won't even be a problem in the future. And the passive income aspect is sort of like what I was touching on earlier, but that is really a powerful thing, right? So like I said in that statement, like $250 for the year is, you know, not anything insane, right? Considering what I have invested, but think that's just money that I got from doing absolutely nothing. And consider what it is now versus what it'll be in 5 years or 10 years when I still consistently invest. Keep in mind, I haven't really been investing that heavily since I've been in college, and I don't have as much money to put away. I've been doing it on and off. I mean, the last time I put money into my portfolio was when I had a summer internship, and I haven't invested anything in it since then, but it still grows every month from nothing, right? And that's a really cool feeling, and no matter how much money you have in an account, it's going to do that for you as well. And I do also want to say that there is a lot of fluctuation. Stocks don't always just go up infinitely. There are dips, and, you know, especially during what happened a couple of years ago with that big, you know, world event going on, stocks went down a lot. But that was, you know, it's when you are consistently buying over time, you can weather those storms. When you're playing for the long game and you're not trying to flip and you're truly investing, you really do find a lot of value in that. The goal isn't also just wealth, it's more that financial independence and resilience you have, to where you have the option to maybe take a different career change and those other big things in life, that having money that you set aside for yourself, you're honestly future-proofing, and you're giving yourself time and you're giving yourself opportunity that a lot of people will not have if they never invest. Every single dollar you're investing right now will set you up for the future. And, you know, I kind of ended up rambling a little bit about what I was saying here. Ultimately, when you're young, investing gives you more time. It's your ally. Time is absolutely your ally when you are a young person for that compound growth. Investing has never been easier to get into, and it also helps you build financial freedom. And those are just the 3 reasons that I wanted to talk about today for why it is so important to invest as a young person. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want. Click on this video here if you want to hear me talk some more. That's all I've got. Thanks, y'all.